Hello there, my name's Vinny Voodoo. Before we go any further, why don't you pull up a chair, grab yourself a delicious beverage, and let's get on with it. Now, in my most recent video, I talked about the on-demand high-resolution texture streaming option, and I answered several questions, hopefully all the questions you might have, and there'll be a link to that video at the end of this one and in the description, so if you're not sure what it is, go take a look at that. Now, in my previous texture pack comparison videos, I used to look at operators, guns, flying to Verdansk. We're basically going to keep the same format for this, but we're going to keep it a bit briefer. So what I'll do first is, why don't we take a look at the guns? Okay, in my previous texture pack videos, especially texture pack 5, I did notice a difference between before and after of the guns. In fact, I'll put a montage here showing it's actually after then before of some of the scratches that appear when you install high resolution textures. So let's just take a quick look at that. Now, on the MG82, which was the LMG that you saw at the beginning of that montage, there were two very specific scratches that were by the mag. And I'm going to go to the MG82 now. And the problem we have is that in this mode, when I can spin the gun around, the gun's too far away to see those scratches. They're actually just in the middle of the gun there. But if I go to the what they call the animation mode, but it's just a series of stock camera shots of the gun, it will eventually come around and you will see those two scratches as shown in my montage a moment ago. That shows that these are high resolution versions of the textures for this gun. In fact, I think it's coming up on the next shot now. That one there, and I can see very clearly the two scratches that are there. I'll put arrows next to them. By the time this is compressed for YouTube, it may not be as obvious as I said in my Texture Pack 5 comparison video, but you can see it. The problem I have is the guns resolve much, much faster than the operators. So when I have high resolution on-demand texture streaming on, it appears so quickly. I'm not sure if it's the standard version of it or the high resolution version. I can show that if I go to the armory here, and I haven't looked at these guns in this session. In fact, I don't think I've looked at these guns since I last enabled high resolution texture streaming. So if I go through the actual blueprints here, you can see the gun resolve to its final form, kind of merge in. Let's see if this will be a bit quicker. That was instant. That was pretty instant. Oh, you could see it there. In fact, if you now go back and forth between them, you can sort of see it happen. That is the high-resolution version of that gun. And that is the sort of speed. But I noticed that it's not instant. So I don't know if the gun textures do go in the bin that I discuss in the frequently asked questions. This is the pack bin that is created when you enable high-resolution textures. But either way, I can say for certain that the guns are improved by having it on, and given that they're in front of your face for most of the game, that's a good thing. So why don't we skip the guns and go straight to the operators. And we'll begin here with Sparks' pants. And what I'll do is I'll put a red arrow near a point of interest, but keep in mind the entire texture will improve. And as soon as the red arrow disappears, it will resolve itself to the high resolution texture. So have a look at that on his left leg there. And boom, it's just a little bit cleaner. That's a more subtle one. Some of the others that are coming up will be a bit more obvious. Now, I used young Nikolai here in my frequently asked questions. I thought I'd use him again here in case you haven't seen it. And you see the squared blocky bits on his arm, and it kind of dissolves to them. It's not an instant click like it would be if we were doing a before and after comparison with texture packs. This was interesting. This confirmed what I always thought along, and that's assets are shared between operators. The knee pads here will very subtly clean up, and then I looked at them on other operators with the same knee pads, even if they had a different slight hue on them, and they were clean after this too. So you see that stepping there, it'll just go, there it's gone, and the little bolts or what indentations around them are cleaner as well. So let's have a look at this rebreather. Now what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to hard cut this, because I was looking at this for quite some time. I took a swig of my delicious beverage and that circle resolved itself. So I'm going to hard cut it because it was the effect that I saw. So boom, it's cleaner. It's more obvious when you do that than when you let it dissolve in, but it dissolves in by default. Again, a pair of pants. Stitching does seem to play an important part of recognizing this, and it's just the vertical stitching going down there. Incredibly subtle there. So if you're looking at this on a cell phone, you probably think I didn't see any change at all, and that's true of a lot of these comparisons, although this one's a lot better. The stepping that's on the patch on his arm is like Donkey Kong level, and then zoom, it's gone, and it's now, it looks like stitching. Like I say, the stitching seems to be a good indicator of when it's gone in. Like his elbow here, there's some stitching missing, like they've dropped stitches, and when it resolves, there, all the stitching comes in. Stitching time saves 9. I used Rose's leg here in my FAQ as well, and it's a good one because it's really obvious when it resolves in, and it's just cleaner. So that's a good example of that. And there's her elbow again. You can see very clearly the digital artifacts of a low-res compressed image on the seam between the grey and the black, and when that resolves, you'll actually see the stitching on the seam there. Again though, it's subtle. You've got to decide whether that subtlety's worth it. Now this is interesting because this is a horrible texture anyway, because it has terrible texture streaming, but I will hard cut this one so you can see it coming up. Boom. It's a little cleaner, but it still has that terrible texture stretching in it anyway, so it's terrible anyway. But this is a good one. This is Naga's arm, and it will just clean up real nice. That's a great one. If you rewind that and go and have a look at that, that's a good one. And we'll end here with Stitch's lobster claw. That's on the patch that's on his leg, and it just smooths out. Zoom. And there you go. So that's about the level of, temper your expectations here. That's about the level of improvement that on-demand texture streaming does to the operators. So why don't we sum up by flying into Verdansk and having a look around. And here I am in the chopper. Get to the chopper. Terrible impression. I fly over hills in my texture pack comparison videos. I'm tempted to go somewhere else. But you know what? I'm going to stick with what I know.
Get ready.
Now, you may be thinking, these only affect operators and guns. What is the point in flying into Verdansk in a comparison video when you've already done the comparisons? Well, as I say in my frequently asked question video, and as I've always said, there's a difference between performance and visuals. These won't have any effect on the visuals of the environment of Verdansk once it's resolved, but they may have an effect on how long it takes to resolve. Oh, I'm being shot. That's a bit cheeky. Who was that? Oh, they're still having another go. That was him. Yep. We're doing a bit of James Bondy here. All I wanted to do was have a look at... Oh, he's still having a go. But as you can see, it looks okay. There's not that marshmallow effect. It kind of looks like the shoebox village that was built in Back to the Future when it doesn't resolve, although I can see trees and stuff coming in. I've got a feeling as that 24 gig bin... Oh, and another thing, by the way, I believe on base consoles that's only an 8 gig bin. At least on the Xbox base console, but either way, that 24 gig bin that's created when you enable on-demand high-resolution texture streaming will take some time to fill up. And when it does, it'll be more efficient and useful than it is when you first enable it. So, anyway, let's get rid of that thing. And here we are, up on hills. Bench here, except it's gone. And they've changed the quad bike to a motorbike. And there it is. Yes, nothing looks any different here. Interestingly, I should have picked a sniper rifle so I could kind of zoom in a bit. But look, nothing's marshmallowy here. It looks good. So what I'll do is I'll continue playing the game here as normal, and if something interesting happens, I'm recording all the time, I will edit it in. I just noticed that the patch 1.41 changed the background there. So since I started making this vid, the background's changed. It's got all the little numbers on it now. Yes, nothing interesting happened during that particular trip around Verdansk, and that's a good thing. I mean, obviously I would have rather have come first and plunder, but that's okay. Yes, so that's it. That's the subtle changes that on-demand text-to streaming does. Now, I haven't talked about how long it takes. Some of them came in at just a few seconds, 20 seconds. Some of them took 8 or 9 minutes. To get the list of operators that I showed in this video, it took about 3 hours. Because I don't know which textures, even though they may look low-res, are actually going to be improved by having this option on. So I'm sitting there, and I think, is this going to resolve at some point? And as I say in my FAQ, the longest one took 8 minutes to resolve. But that doesn't mean it'll take 8 minutes every time, because whilst this is on demand, and it isn't streaming, it's also putting it into the texture bin, which is the 24 gig that this option reserves, at least on PS4 Pro and above, for future use. So the next time it will be instant, and I've tested this, and I tried to use operators that I haven't used in my texture pack videos, because those I obviously know when they're going to improve, like Adler's Pants, to add a bit of spice and variety. So hopefully this video hasn't been too loquacious, and in fact it has. Is that future Vinny Voodoo leaving a caption on my video? Well, stop it. That's better. Okay, clearly I have gone mad. It's time for more delicious beverages. So it just leaves me to say that my name is Vinny Voodoo, and thanks for watching.